Oh, excuse me. There it is.
There it is.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Well, I just first of all want to thank y'all for inviting me to do this. I worried about it a lot, thought about it a lot, and then I just gave it up, and I thought I'm just going to say what God did for me, because I don't know it all. I don't even really know like what the Bible says, but I know what God did for me.
Amen.
And it's not going to be my ability that does it. This is not where my natural abilities lie. My natural abilities lie in writing, not in speaking. But I just pray for eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart that understands.
Hallelujah.
I was born in 1978. That's my dad right there, big furry guy. Today is my mom's birthday, so if she's watching, I just want to tell her happy birthday. And I was born in 1978, raised by godly parents. I couldn't have picked better parents for myself. God really blessed me with them. And raised in church my whole life. And when I was 8, I said the Lord's Prayer. I got baptized, but the conversion didn't happen at that point. And I got on up, and I got married, and had children. And within a couple of years, that marriage went down, and got a divorce. And about a year later, I lost my kids the first time. And that is when my troubles sort of started happening. I got them back, and the day I married my second husband, I was served with papers, losing them again, that had his rap sheet attached to the papers that I didn't know about. Got him back again. When I divorced him, I lost him a third time. And that is when my heart broke. And I couldn't deal with the silence. I couldn't deal with not having my children. And I dove into drugs with all that I had. And within 6 months, I was shooting dope. I was a junkie, full-blown junkie. And then I met Kenny. And Kenny was my third husband. And I loved him. And he loved me. And he was good to me. And we had a good life. And we actually got custody of his grandson, was raising him, and was living in Union, Georgia, doing really well. I got mostly clean. I was still doing pain pills, but I wasn't shooting or anything like that. And had a good job. We had a good life. And then I woke up. Actually, it was the morning of August 6th is when things changed for me. My little sister called me that day. She said, Mama is sick. She said, we're taking her to the hospital. You probably need to come on in. Her blood pressure was like 47/13. And I called Kenny, and he was playing golf, and he was drinking. And I said, I need to go to Alabama. And he said, well, I'll drive you. And I said, well, you can come, but I'm driving. You're not driving me there. And we got there to the hospital, and he was supposed to go across the street and get a hotel room. And he'd been drinking, and he forgot, and he drove back to Union, Georgia. And while I was there, we found out that Mom had kidney cancer through the salmonella poisoning. She went in for salmonella poisoning. It was no accident, no coincidence that they found the kidney cancer when they found it. If they had found it 6 months later, my mama would be dead, you know. But 2 days later, Kenny came back to get me. It was a Monday, and we drove home. We both got up and went to church. Works Tuesday morning. And when we got home from work, I was tired. I'd been gone all weekend. There was clothes piled up, and he watched me do 6 loads of laundry. And he picked up a piece of clothes, and I jerked it out of his hand. I said, you're not going to make yourself feel like you helped me now. And he and I got into one of the worst arguments we ever had in our marriage. And the last thing I did that night was got in the bed and turned my back to my husband. The next morning was August 10th, 2016. I woke up and he was dead in bed with me. He had had a massive heart attack about 1 a.m. He was already in rigor when I woke up. Within a month, I had given up the car, the job, taken his grandson back to his grandmother, and within 2 months, I was shooting meth. Bad, because I couldn't deal. And I lost my mind, y'all. I moved into a house in the middle of winter that had no power, no running water, no heat, with a bunch of dogs. I lost my mind. I could not deal. And sometime during that time, I bought this necklace that's around my neck. It's a little turquoise cross, and it's got my husband's ashes in it. Following March, I broke a needle off in my arm. And I thought, well, I'm definitely going to die now. And 2 weeks later, I overdosed. I woke up in the hospital with my mom and dad there. No, Dad was rubbing my head, Mom was crying, my sister was there, she was squalling. And I kept on going, like it was nothing. Because it didn't mean nothing, because those drugs, they had taken everything good. Yes, at first they dulled the pain, but then they took everything good that I had in my life, any type of laughter, any type of joy. It took it all. It just, and then a couple weeks after that, my cross comes up missing. And I knew who had it. They told me that they had it. And they told me they had taken it. And then I met Scotty. And I knew that things were bad. And then I kept going down that road with the drugs. And I would try to talk to my dad. And he couldn't stand what I was doing to myself. It hurt him so much to look at me, so he just turned away. And I imagine that that's exactly what Jesus was doing. He was still there. He just turned away. He couldn't look at me. I'm a daddy's girl, and my brother, what he said was, I was going to die, and I knew I was going to die. And then I met Scotty, and Scotty, I knew within a couple months it was bad. I knew it was bad. And then I kept on going because I had access to money to feed my drug habit. And I married him. And during this time, after all this that had happened, I felt God pulling me, drawing me to him. And we got in a fight one day, and he shot at me with a nail gun, and then another day he threw a hammer that my dad had given him for Christmas. He threw that hammer. And it stuck in the door behind my head. And it was out of some sort of horror movie. Because I knew if that door hadn't been there, I would have died. And I had so much fear on me because I knew I was going to die from either my hand or at his hand. But I knew I was going to die. And then I prayed to God because I knew that he was the only chance that I had. I knew that he was the only thing in my life that made sense. And I prayed to him. I wanted wisdom and I wanted discernment because I couldn't believe anything that my husband was saying to me. And I just prayed to God. I said, God, show me his heart. I just want to see his heart. So I know what I'm dealing with. And then the next day we got into an argument, and he takes all my children's things, all those little mementos, all those little pictures, everything I had saved from the time that they were born, and he took them out in the yard and threw them in a fire. I'd already lost my children, and then he took what I had left of them, and he took all my late husband's things, and he burned them. And then he took a hammer to all of my grandmother's knickknacks that she left me. You want to talk about fear, y'all? I knew I was going to die. And then in one of those fights, I remember I was drawn to God. I felt Him pulling me, and I kept trying to read the Bible. And during one of those arguments, when He left, I remember I threw my Bible on the bed, and I thought, I might as well give up on God, because I'm never going to be able to live right single. I'm just not going to be able to. And I was always one of those people that thought that they needed a man, that man was my identity, like I couldn't make it without a man. And I got to thinking that He was going to do something for insurance money, my insurance money. So during one of our arguments, I went to the health insurance guy, and I said, hey, look, I think he's about to do something for insurance money. I'm going to change my beneficiary. So I changed it and got out of there that evening and called him, and I said, look, if something happens to me, you won't gain a penny. I changed my beneficiary to my dad. And the next day, he burnt our house down on purpose and told the cops that I did it. And even after all that, I still went back because I had that drug problem, because I was still feeding those drugs. And I kept telling myself I was only doing the drugs because of what he was doing to me, but I was doing the drugs before him, so it didn't, But I still felt God like pulling me, and y'all, I went up to that place where he had burnt our house down, and I took all this old burnt black wood, and I started building altars everywhere because I was so scared, and God was the only thing that made sense to me. And at the time, like, my family really wasn't talking to me because I kept going back, and who would want to watch you kill yourself either by your hand or watch somebody else do it? I mean, if you love somebody, you don't want to see them go right back into that. And that July, I went, I was bouncing around house to house and didn't have anywhere to stay, and I was starving to death. That's when Matthew was talking about, I showed up at his house, and he yelled at me, and I was like, I just wanted a glass of tea. And you don't have to answer that call, by the way. I was just going to let you know that. Anyway, believe it or not, 2 weeks ago, 18 months ago today, I was a couple streets over here getting dope. Like 18 months ago today, I showed up at my dad's that day because I had talked to my mama earlier. She was visiting with my aunt in Georgia. And I was messaging with her. I said, Mom, I want to come there because I wanted to be next to my mom. And she's like, well, if you're done with the drugs, if you're done with him, go to your dad's. So on the afternoon of August 9th, 2018, I showed up at my daddy's. The next day was August 10th, 2018, the 2-year anniversary of my husband's death. And I stopped at the cemetery and I told him that I was sorry and that I was going to change. And my Aunt Debbie came in from Georgia, and I left her that day sure it was going to fail. I was so sure it was going to fail because I had no faith in myself or anybody else at that point. I just knew it was going to fail. And I left her that day with a basket of clothes and a dog. And when I say basket of clothes, I mean a little basket of clothes. And it actually ended up, a third of it was my clothes, a third of it was his clothes, and a third of it was curtains. And I have no idea how that happened. But I got there. And that first day we stopped at Walmart, and my fear had gripped me so much that my aunt got out of my sight in that Walmart. And I started having a panic attack. And then, like, at night, if I knew my aunt and my uncle were sleeping, I couldn't sleep because if he came, who would hear? But the drugs was more of a seamless transition for me. After all that I had been through, I literally just stepped out of the drug life and into a new one. And I had a need for God. And I talked to Mom. I said, Mom, I feel like I have been through a battle. And she said, you have. It's been a spiritual one for your soul. And I started going to a church there, New Life. And let me tell you, y'all, they just took me in and they loved me. And I remember about a week after I was laying in my bed one night and I had praise music going. That's one thing that I did is I cut out, like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with country music or anything else, but it was just taking my mind back to places where it didn't need to be. And so I was laying there that night and I had praise music on. And I had a clock that was throwing a light onto the ceiling, and I was laying there looking, thinking in my mind about the utter destruction of my life, how it was just leveled out. Like I was nearly 41. No, I was nearly 40. And I had nothing, literally nothing. And I remember that night I raised my hand up to the ceiling and I was praying to God. I said, God, I said, I need you. I'm done doing it my way. Look at what my way has got me. And I'm done with this. And I am yours, and I will go and I will do and I will say what you need me to do. But
Hallelujah.
I need you in my life. I need you to lead me and guide me and direct me in every decision that I make. Every single decision. And I'm not talking about like when I yielded, I'm not talking about just a little bit. I'm talking about I yielded. Like I do not take a step without him okaying it first.
Yes. Hallelujah.
And y'all, I had forgotten what the sound of my laughter sounded like. And then he gave me my joy and my peace back. And I am 41 years old and I have the urge to run around outside and twirl around like I did when I was a little girl. That is the joy and the peace. It's like I fell in love, and when I did, I hit it hard. I'm talking about hard. Like I look for him everywhere. I can't do anything but talk about him to everyone. Everybody I meet, I slip God into this conversation. In one way or another, God's going to be there.
You're in your first love.
Oh, I'm telling you. Let me tell you something. When I fell in love, it changed everything. And then one of the things I did that sped my healing up, I believe, is I purposed within my heart. I said, I'm going to read this Bible. You know, I love God, and I want to know more about him, and I'm going to read this Bible. And it took me 4.5 months to read through it the first time, which most people are lucky to do it like in a year. No, I mean, I was picking it up. I was going to learn, and it changed me, y'all.
Yes.
Our weapon, I mean, that is our best weapon that we have, and we rarely use it. We rarely pick it up. I mean, if you're looking for action, adventure, drama, supernatural, and it is the greatest love story I have ever read.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Within 5 weeks, y'all, I was working a full-time job, settling into a home that with family, and then I had this whole big, huge church family. And then in December, I started praying to God. I said, God, show me I am your child. Send me a blessing that all that hear about it know that it's only from you. I came in for Mama's birthday last year, and it was February 9th, and I spent her birthday with her, and then February 10th was on a Sunday morning. And I had prayed that prayer, y'all, every night for about 2 months, 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. My brother come walking in the next day. It was right before church, and he said, I got something in my truck for you. He come walking in, he said, I found this cross in the mud about a year ago. He said, it's got turquoise on it. Would you like to have it? And I looked at that cross, and I thought, there is I couldn't breathe, y'all. I was like, oh my gosh. You know, and he's looking at me like I'm about to fall out or something, and I was like, there's absolutely no way that is that same cross. And I flipped it over and rubbed the mud off the back, and there's my husband's name on the back of that cross. And if he had given it to me when he had found it, it would have been taken in the house fire. God's timing is perfect, y'all. Like, that is a blessing that God had in the making for at least 2 years, you know, if not my entire life. It's like that tree that Zacchaeus needed was planted years before Zacchaeus needed it. You know what I mean? And then I've got this friend, Sue, and she's got this daughter, Malia, that is lost in the drug life and had been for years. And God put it on my heart about 7 months ago. He said, buy her a Bible. I was like, I don't even know her. And he's like, buy her a Bible. So y'all, I went and I bought this Bible, and I really outdid it. You know, like I put the little tabs on it, bought this pretty case, put this notebook in there with these highlighters and these pens, and nobody knew where Malia was. So how was I going to give it to her? So I just gave it to Sue. And about 6 weeks ago, Sue called me. She said, you know, Malia's in the hospital. Man she was with is beating her pretty bad. And Sue goes up there and she sees her, and then the next day she goes back up to her. And she's got, I told her, I said, take her that Bible. So Sue's got that Bible, and before she even takes it out of the bag, Sue says, my friend Elizabeth has bought you something. And she pulls that Bible out of the bag, and Malia just starts booing. And she said, I prayed for a Bible 2 days ago with something with a case that I could put my pens and my notes and everything in. And here it was. Her need had been answered months before she ever prayed it. And that is mostly how the way God works, you know. Your need is there. It's done.
Amen.
I had decided that I don't care what everybody else is doing. I'm going straight on for God, and I want you to come too.
Amen.
You know, but don't hinder me, because, you know, they still flesh here. I might throw a boot and knock you out the way. I'm going on for God. You know what I mean? That is what I'm doing, and I have figured out that not only could I live right single, I'm excelling at it. There's a sacredness to singleness, because I get to devote my entire time to loving and worshiping Him. And I don't have to worry about what I'm fixing for supper or waking somebody up when I want to read the Bible at 2 a.m. I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good. I've got God, and He is my husband.
Yes, He's your beloved.
And He is better to me than, I mean, look, y'all, I love y'all, Matthew and Dad, y'all are good to me, but God is better to me than anybody ever have been, you know? I've noticed that my desires and my dreams are changing.
Yes.
Right? Especially like where it concerns my kids. Like in the beginning, my prayers were, Lord, bring me my kids. Lord, bring me my kids. I want my kids. Bring me my kids. And then my prayers became, Lord, even if you never give me my kids, let my family know that. Because these two are innocent on both hearts. And now my prayers are,
Hallelujah.
my prayers are, Lord, even if my family don't get them, lead them to you, because that is the one way
Hallelujah.
that I would know that they are okay.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
That is the one way.
Yes, Lord. Hallelujah.
If my story does anything for you, I wanted to bring you hope. And I want you to always know that no matter what you're going through, there's another in the fire with you.
Yes.
And He is shielding you, and He will walk you right through it, and you'll come out not even smelling like smoke.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Tomorrow
Praise God.
will be 18 months, my clean date. A year and a half. And in less than 18 months, God took a junkie and He sat her up in a church nursery, rocking people's babies. People are handing me their babies. There's nothing natural about that, y'all. Jeremiah 29:13 says, and you will seek me and you will find me when you search for me with all of your heart.
Yes.
That is the key, the all of your heart part, not just a little bit.
That's right.
Not half of it, not 3/4, all of it. And when you do that with everything that you've got in you, He will shower the blessings. He will rain them down on your head. Like, I got so tickled, y'all. I'm not dreaming of big things like my own house or new car. I got so tickled by a little $3 guppy fish, y'all. I got the biggest blessing out of a little $3 fish, you know? Because I got to watch it have babies. And, you know, Esther 4:14 is Mordecai talking to Esther. And he says, who knows, perhaps you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this, which what he was saying is maybe this is why you were born in the first place. Yes. And maybe this is why I was born.
In the first.
Yeah. If I can give hope If I could tell you that God is there and He's waiting on you, He is. And I'm a daughter of the Most High God.
Hallelujah.
And He has taken all of my shame and all of my
Hallelujah.
guilt. God has got you every step of the way.
Amen.
That's all I got.
Oh, praise God. Hallelujah. What a word. Praise God. Hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Thank you for your prayers and support.
Sorry.
Hallelujah.
We had a lot of testimonies.
It was great.
I'm so glad we got it in on time. My Lord, my Lord. That really came to me finally. Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard a lot, and that's the best thing we've heard. Oh, man. Yeah.
You know. Can I say just a word?
Say whatever you want to say.
Can I say a word?
Yeah, say whatever you want to say.
Do what?
Well, you didn't-
I'm just going to say.
Hey, can we have your attention? Wait, let me give you a mic so people can hear you. Just a minute. Take this so they can hear you. Is it on?
You know, when Elizabeth told me that Rose had asked her to speak, I had a lot of, dealing with it in my mind, and I thought about how that she had to look back and how she had to talk about things that had, destroyed her life, and how ugly addiction is.
Yeah.
I talked with Teresa Chapman the other day. She's the pastor at the Church of Love over in Camp Cyber. We was at the bank, and I went to talking about drug addiction and what we're dealing with in rural areas where it didn't used to be that prevalent in rural areas, but it's got every other young person now, and middle-aged people, and even old people are either using or selling or manufacturing drugs. And how that, people look to Washington, they think that our answers are up there, but the corruption and our downfall is in the family and in our communities. And we're not going to be able to heal America with a politician. He said over in Chronicles, he said, "My people that are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face." And he said, "I would hear from heaven and I would heal their land, And what we got to do is we got to attack drug addiction head on.
Yes.
I know it may be your nephew or your child or whatever, but we got to take a firm stance. We don't need to be enablers. Elizabeth will tell you that I'm hard to deal with as a daddy when it comes to. She called me not long ago and she said, "Daddy, I think I might want to go home." I said, "Come home." I said, "That's okay. You're welcome." But I said, "No more episodes. I can't deal with any more of it." And that person that she was when she was on drugs was not my daughter.
Yeah.
If you go to sleep at night and you can't trust the person in the other room, that's not your family.
That's right.
And Teresa Chapman made a statement and said, "They're still in there somewhere." I said, "Yeah, I know that God can deliver them, but they've got to have that desire." When Lot's wife left Sodom, she wasn't fully satisfied.
No.
She had to turn and look back. And that's what And his daughters were destroyed by that city. His whole family. You know, when he looked down there, it was a well-watered plain down there, and Abraham gave him the choice that he could go anywhere he pleased and said, I'll go the other way. And Lot looked down there, and it looked prosperous, you know. But when I come over a hill of a big city and I look down in it, I don't think about prosperity, and I don't think about all the things there that are good in that city. I think about the temptations and the trouble. I told my daughter about our neighborhood. I said, those people have pus in their veins and tombstones in their eyes. And I said, the death is reaching up out of graves and pulling you down, you know. And it's so deceiving.
Yes, it is.
I watched that 60 Days In the other night, and they're sitting there talking, spraying roach poison on tobacco and rolling it in a cigarette paper and smoking it and saying it gets them high. They're making drugs out of Drano and you see these young people doing things like making bets about eating a Tide Pod, some detergent. I bet a kid when I was little, a quarter, me and my brother did, that he would swallow an Alka-Seltzer, and he did, and every time he lied, foam would come out his mouth, you know. We thought that was funny, but it could have killed him. And Rose, Ben, you'll have to admit that drug come along in our generation.
Yeah,
I told somebody, I said, Rose and her friend Rita looks like holiness hippies.
I guess that's what we are.
All of us are. When I say that, I don't mean no disrespect, but I talk about what we were doing in our lives. But God didn't let me go near as far as Elizabeth did. My nerves broke on me in 1975, the winter. In that neighborhood that thought that I was the ringleader in the party, I had panic attacks. I was afraid to walk out of the yard. And they would come and ask me about it, and I said, go on by yourself, I'm not doing it no more. And they thought, yeah, you know. You know what? I didn't do it anymore. I'd had all I wanted. I had all I wanted of it. You know, and when you start having children, you know, it's my fault. If you think about it, you know, when you reap what you sow, you know, sow to the wind and what, reap of what? I've told my children, I said, listen, I said, and I've got some, I've had, some of them have behaved themselves pretty well, but then there's, some of them have, two of them have went to extremes the other way. You know what I'm saying? And I came back from Matthew will tell you, I was riding down the road one day, and I just turned and looked at him and said, I'm thinking about shooting your older sister. I didn't. I had to pray for repentance.
Yeah, you're right.
But I don't mean to take up a lot of time, but it's so painful for me to sit back there. When I say that, I wondered whether I should be here today because Elizabeth is a little bit nervous about me spiritually. And my other daughter, Jennifer, told me one time she had been down at Rose and Skeet's house, and she told me, she said, Daddy, Skeet's just like you. He's a hard man. And I told her, we sitting at the table, and I dropped my fork, and I looked at her, and I said, listen, if being a hard man means that you want things done right, I said, then I'm a hard man. And I said, more power to old Skeet over there. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to have to turn into hard men. They got this testosterone going on
with
nowadays.
a gentle edge.
You know, this testosterone thing. Men, and they said on the commercial that the men nowadays don't have as much testosterone. Well, they don't even know they're men nowadays. They want to marry one another. They want to call that a family. And there's women that's drawn to one another. They want to call that a family. And they call that a structure. And they call us haters because we won't swallow that. I had one of them walk across the yard with a purse around his neck going to challenge me on my porch. Debbie said, I thought he was going to go off on his head in the flower bed. And I told her, I said, when I looked at him, I thought if one of my children was in Minnesota, where he was from, and they was that mixed up, I'd hope that there'd be somebody with some compassion that would try to correct him.
Yes.
And I told him he was wrong, but I didn't do it. No. I told him, you need to go back and check up. There's a road back there somewhere. You missed it. You missed the trail. He told me he's going to be as big as Oral Robertson. And the other big fella, I told him, I said, I appreciate your zeal, but old Davy Crockett was my hero. And I said, he had a saying, and he got it from Gideon, be sure you're right, and then go ahead. Learn. And hell is enlarging itself and swallowing people up every day. And we're so close to eternity, we don't realize it. Your husband was the first one that I ever stood there and watched draw his last breath. And he was alive one minute and he was gone. And I thought, how? I told my people this morning in church, I said, we're not in control.
No.
I said, we take life for granted. God's in control.
That's right.
We went to my great-grandson's birthday party. Debbie gets such a thrill just looking at his picture. And we look at that, and I'm frail now. I'm 65 years old. Jack, I remember when you was a big old muscular man and everything. Me and you done got old now and lost a lot of that, but we still ain't scared of them young fellers, are we? But you know what? There's a place, said there remaineth a rest for the children of God. And I thought about that Steve Earle song that said, I'm just a pilgrim on this road. And I watched that old Lonesome Dove movie, and old Roscoe was going down the road, and they pulled a gun on him, going to rob him. And he said, I'm just Roscoe Brown, and I'm going down. I don't want no trouble. I just want to go down this road in peace. You know what I'm saying? But some ways it'll be, somebody will bring it to you, the trouble, And my remaining years, they bought me a rocking chair last Father's Day. And I like to sit in my rocking chair, And I don't want no trouble nowhere. And them fellers in the holler know it. They don't come up the hill bothering me. I got a sign in my driveway that said, no drugs or alcohol. And then right under it, it says, and she inspired me to put that sign up. Right under it said, will use force. And I thought about it since then. I said, I ought to cut that bottom part off because I'm not a forceful man, but to protect my family and my life. That's all I got. I'm like that pilgrim that got all this, sold it out and put it on the wagon. Everything I got's on this wagon, and I'm on this trip. And if this don't work, I'm busted anyway. You know what I'm saying? I got everything I got invested in my walk for Christ. You know what?
That's right. That's right.
I know. But people back in our day, they'd go out there and they'd cow pasture and they'd get them. I had a brother-in-law. He got out of prison and he'd come stay with us in Georgia, and I thought he was a nature lover. I'd come in from work and he'd come out to cow pasture. I got thinking, yeah, he's loving nature. He's them little white mushrooms are growing up out of that. Growing up out of that cow manure. You know what that stuff's doing to you? You know, they said that they frog lickers in Florida. You ever heard of the Goliath toads? There's a huge toad in Florida. Now, Jack, we never was that desperate, was we? But grab a toad and lick them bumps on his back. I remember when I
kinda
was a
like
kid,
Tide
the dog
Pods.
would bite a toad and he'd bum it. He would. You know what that's doing? It's poisoning your body. And then in them old trumpet vines that grows up these old barns, got these old orange trumpet blossoms on them. That's a cousin to the loco weed, and the young people down there found out about it, and they was eating them things, overdosing on them. Said they was hallucinating on trumpet vines, licking toads. A friend of mine from high school, he was driving a truck, and he said, I brought a box full of them toads back from Florida, and said, if they'd have pulled me over, they'd got me for transporting drugs.
Wow.
Because of a bunch of toads. I wish I was a lawyer in Florida. I'd take up the cause of them toads. Them fellers being molested without their permission.
Well, he was saying him and Jack never got that desperate, but me and Skeet, when we lived on Rifle Range Road, we used to check out those cow patties.
Yeah, the mushrooms. Yeah.
I don't know how to follow that. Let's just pray. I want to pray. I tell you what, I want you to know, Elizabeth, I mean, I've been blessed today. I've been so blessed. Kim, your obedience to the Lord. See how we need each other. Matthew. If there's anybody before we pray that wants to say anything, don't let this pass you by. Is there anybody?
The Lord said He come to set the captive free. That's the only way we get free of that stuff.
Martha, you got anything?
I remember back last April, I had a bad accident. I was down, and my spirit was down. I was going through a lot, and I got a phone call one night. And she said, all we hear, you prayed for me. She said, now I pray for you. That meant the world to me, to know God cared. I said I used to worry about whenever they called, I always went. Because no matter if they're in that stuff or not, they still be family. And God, she loved me. And so when I went, she said, you always came. I said, the Lord always came to me. And the times I needed Him, and that's what He wants to do for everybody else. He wants us to love them, and be there for them. And she needed more than what we could give her here.
That's right.
And she needed to be away from all this out here. She found that love in that family in Georgia. And we're incredibly thankful for them. But most of all, she needed to love the Lord. And I said, I used to worry about her when she closed her eyes at night, and if she didn't make it through the night, where was Steve been? Now I know we'll all be together one day.
Circle me and we love y'all's family, I'm telling you.
We need prayer for Jim.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to say. You took the words out of my
And we
mouth.
love her the
Because
same.
I'm going to tell you something about Jen, and y'all know this. She's full of the Word of God. She's full of the Word of God, but I told her one time, and it's true, that, Jacob, he had to wrestle out.
Yeah.
And the Lord changed him after that wrestling.
He walked different.
He walked different. His thigh got, and I told her so many times, I said, you need that thigh pulled out of joint. And but she will. I believe with all my heart God authored her faith. And he promised that if he authored it, he'll finish it. But we need to pray, yes, and pray for mine, pray for my sons and grandson, my whole family. But God has joined these two families, the Gibbs and the what else like a covenant, in a covenant relationship. And you know, when they would cut covenant with each other, they said, I tell you what, in your weakness, I'll be made strong. And everything I have is yours, and everything you have is mine. And they would change each other's clothes and weapons. You know, God does that for us, but He wants us to love one another like that, to be in covenant with one another in that way. And I'm telling you that we could not have made it without the Gibbs family so many times. And I'm not trying to spread a net for nobody's feet. This is just the truth, and the Bible says give honor where honor is due. And so,
I just want to say thank you, Lord. I love Jesus.
Yes.
I love you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for loving me when I'm so unworthy. You know, thank you for being the true and sovereign God, Lord.
thank you, Kim and George, for the sacrifice I've seen y'all do. And your love toward us. Your love toward us, your sacrifice. I'm telling you, you're such a sweet spirit, a sweet spirit.
That's what I was talking about earlier, like you can't get through life without your friends.
Yeah, you nailed it with that. Yes, that's
You
right.
can't, you gotta have.
Well, the Lord designed it that way.
Yeah.
That's
No
why.
matter what you do, leave backpack with one of your family members.
Yeah, and that's why I said, how can you love God who you've not seen when you can't love your brother who
Yeah,
you
but you can't get along.
If y'all don't know this lady here, Miss Laura, and I introduced her to Rose, with Rose and Rose's
I read your book.